This
Okay.
conference will
Can you
now
hear me
be
both?
recorded.
And here's what you can expect today. We are recording this session. I'm going to be talking about 100 miles an hour. And what that means is that it's probably going to be hard at sometimes to take notes. So what we're doing is we're recording the session so that you can just really enjoy it and know that you can look back at it later. That means that we're recording the video, we're recording the audio, but we're also recording the slides. So if you are joining us by phone, there's a whole slideshow presentation that you're getting as well. So if you want the link to the replay, all you have to do is send me an email to paul@ilifecoachtraining.com, and I'll make sure that you get that. Also, I'm going to reward you today for being a part of today's workshop. Here's the thing, and I don't know if you guys have looked at your calendar in the last little while, but if you're looking at the screen, we have 19 days until the new year. And why is this important? Because January is the most profitable, it is the most lucrative, it is the biggest month for your coaching practice. And for those of you who are thinking about this, because what the world is doing right now, we don't want to take our cue from what everybody else is doing, which is basically a lot of people who are just finishing out the year, and a lot of them are kind of fake working, and they're not really doing anything to advance themselves and progress or anything else. If anything, they're just going to cruise through the new year, and they're kind of like, I'll pick this thing back up after the new year. And if you're thinking seriously about becoming a coach and you want that for 2019, you do not want to wait until after January to start, because January is the easiest month to get clients. Everyone's already thinking about their future. They're already thinking about the year that they want, and they're dreaming about things. So coaching's really a no-sell. They're just looking for some kind of a solution that will help them get to where they want to go. No one really wants to have another year of New Year's resolutions, because people, on average, it's about 8% of any New Year's resolutions are actually followed through with, and it's because people don't really marry what they want with action, and they don't have steps. And so I'm really encouraging you guys, you have a small window. You have essentially 3 weeks to whatever you need to do. Get trained, get certified. We have a business development program that we can help you get things in order for January 1. But if you really want to hit the ground running, if you wait until January, and you're only even waiting to get finished up by like January 15th or 21st, you're really missing a prime window. And so if you didn't know that, January is our biggest month in our industry, and it's because it's the easiest month to, you don't really have to convince people. They already know what they want. A lot of them are walking out. Some of them are limping out of this year, and they want something different. So let me tell you about the discount code before we go on any further. There's 2 ways of getting certified through Life Coach Training Institute. Both of them involve the Life Coach certification course. We are a fully online, on-demand program. What does that mean for you? It means that we don't have start dates and end dates. Our programs are completely self-paced, and we were the original pioneers in online education for coaches. This year, we will have certified 700 coaches this year alone. The average school does between 0 to 30 coaches in an entire calendar year. And so we're actually the largest program in North America. We're almost the largest program globally. And matter of fact, if we really looked at the details, we probably are the largest program globally, and we're the #1 online program. And and so what we did is, years ago, 98% of our students work full time. They wanted an affordable program that they could do on their own, self-paced, self-directed. And so our Life Coach certification course is 10 modules. All the modules are on video, but they're also transcribed. If you want to go through that material through reading it, you can. There's activities at the end of each one of those modules. It concludes with the certification exam, and when you score above 70% on the certification exam, you've earned your credential. It's normally only $195 US. If you get the discount code from me today, that discount code's going to be good for 3 days. I'm rewarding you for being a part of today. It's 35% off, so it drops the price all the way down to $127. But we do have a business development program. We launched it about 3 years ago because most schools don't show you how to get clients. And so you have all these skills, But what you'll find out when you start your coaching practice is it's about 10% the skills you learned in school. It's about 90% business. And so we developed Jumpstart. It's a 20 module business development roadmap. It's the A to Z on how to build your business. We cover everything from how do you discover your target market, how do you discover your niche, how do you sell, how do you attract clients, how do you have an explosive first coaching session that demonstrates that you can help people, how do you close people, how do you answer objections, all of those things that we cover. There's business development tools throughout that. We have an online community where you can role play with other students. You can get feedback on what you're working on. I mean, all the time I'm giving feedback on people's websites, on their business cards, or whatever they submit to us. We give you feedback on it so that you don't get stuck along the way. But we also have an online call every Wednesday. It's the only live element that we do of any of our programs. I host an online call, and I answer every business related question and every coaching related question. So there's that mentoring aspect so that your learning is ongoing, that it's increasing, that we keep you from getting stuck. And it can be from general to specific, very specific questions about your business. Jumpstart's normally $99 a month. If you apply the discount code there, it drops it to $65 a month. Now you do get certified, so you don't buy both programs. If you do the Business Jumpstart, you get everything, but it does have a 3-month minimum commitment. You can cancel after 3 months or stick around and enjoy that same discount, and you get all of those features of the program. But we do require at least 3 months because it's a whole enchilada of everything that we have. And so again, if you want the discount code or the link to the replay, we're not putting it on the screen for a reason, and that reason is because that discount code is going to expire in 3 days. And some people will be watching this next week or even after the weekend, and that code will be invalid by that point. So paul@ilifecoachtraining.com if you want that. And with no further delay, let's jump in. First thing I want to encourage you, you don't have to go into debt to take this step. I know in a lot of cases when people start businesses that they're having to drop thousands of dollars before they ever see any kind of profit. The reality for coaching is that we don't have a whole lot of overhead. You don't have to get an office. You're not having to spend a bunch of money for insurances and licenses and a lot of different kinds of things like that. Really, what I tell our coaches all the time, I was always a frugal coach. In part because I didn't have any money to start any kind of business. When I started my coaching practice, it was in the middle of this recession. We had lost everything, and I know I look kind of young. I'm 44 years old, and so when when I was starting my coaching practice was when the recession had really hit very hard, and we'd lost everything. No one was going to give me a loan. What I tell our coaches all the time is that if you'll be frugal and focus on the things that you really have to have and really need to do for your business, there's no reason why you can't bring home 95% of what you make. And that's from month one, not a year down the road, but that you are instantly profitable if you do this thing right. You don't have to risk your family to take this step. I got some of those questions about family and some of those concerns. I became a coach. A big part of the reason why I started coaching was out of an overflow of some things that were happening in my family and putting them number one. And I've kept that promise all of these years. I work about 25 hours a month. I really enjoy working, but I also enjoy being with my family. I enjoy being able to be generous to my family and those kinds of things. And my kids get more of me than they ever had. Our oldest, that's 21, didn't have that life with me where I was around all the time, as far as like all those hours out of the day. But we have a 14-year-old and a 6-year-old now that, I'm with them all the time, probably more than they really want in most cases. The coaching profession is the least risk of any startup. And again, it's because we're not spending a bunch of upfront money. And also because if you get certified as a coach, what's the worst thing that could happen? You've built your resume, you've added a skill set, you've made yourself that much more marketable. One of the things that I know was was true for me is when I got certified as a coach, I was still in a regular workplace. I started getting all kinds of different opportunities within my own workplace because of the skill set that I brought. And it was long before my leadership there changed. I was just given a lot more opportunities to be able to utilize those skills. I was a chicken entrepreneur though, and I encourage most of you really to be chicken entrepreneurs. And what I mean by that is a lot of times you think of entrepreneurs as people who just quit their job and they go for broke, or they spend thousands of dollars and take a big risk at something. What most entrepreneurs do, whether it be Damon on Shark Tank, he's the guy who founded Fubu. If you ever watch that show on ABC, he's he's a billionaire now. He worked his first couple of years at Red Lobster while he was getting his business up and going. The lady who invented Spanx and became the youngest female multimillionaire in the United States. Well, she was working kind of like as a CPA, kind of like an assistant or whatever, for the first few years of her business. I want you to know that it's actually more the norm, and I think that that no one needs the added stress of quitting their job trying to get something up and going. Matter of fact, for coaches, because it's a very versatile job, you really have a lot of control over what you do. It really benefits you to stay in the job that you're at so that you can think through what market do I want to work with? How do I want to start? What hours do I want to work? And those kinds of things. You can keep the benefits and income of your current job. I know when I started, the problem with my job might be the same problem for you, is it does just enough to keep you there. And it makes you feel like you couldn't be successful or you couldn't get that same base income doing anything else. And rather than that being a negative and weighing you down, why not leverage it and just say, hey, you know what? This job doesn't do everything for me, but it does just enough. I'm going to leverage this opportunity. I'm going to utilize this job to put me in a position so that I can build my business correctly without any added stress or anything else. When I started my coaching practice, I was working full time. My wife would not have been able to get health care during that time. Obamacare wasn't a thing yet. And so there was pre-existing conditions. And if I would have been able to get health care for her, it would have cost thousands of dollars, which I wouldn't have had. And so so I appreciated the fact that I could keep working at the job that I was while I was building my own business. You can create supplemental income with just a few more hours a week of work, or save until you go full time. We're not talking about working 40 hours a week on top of your full-time job. You can eliminate and you can minimize risk while right now getting paid to do what you love. Why do we have to always put this stuff off? And I don't know why a lot of people think that they've got to abandon one thing to start something fresh. Maybe because we look at so many different businesses in their brick and mortar stores that require somebody to work 40 hours on top of something else that they're doing to support their family. It's just not that way with coaching. I worked about 10 hours a month on top of my regular full-time job. Victoria sent this question in ahead of time, and she writes, I'm concerned that coaching will in and of itself take so much energy that I won't have the ability to do it to the best of my ability unless I quit my job. Well, here's what I would say about that, Victoria, and for all of you who might have the same concern. We've equated work with pain for too long. We've equated work with exhaustion, fatigue, needing a vacation, all kinds of things, needing some kind of an escape from what we do. That's not really, I don't think, in my opinion, what work was really designed to be for us. And here's what I mean by that. I do a lot of destiny coaching. I've done a lot of stuff with people who are in mid-career to help them figure out what they want to do next, or people who have retired that are now doing legacy stuff. And to help people find what really matters to them and what they're really designed for, what they're really wired for, is a lot of times we'll look in the past and help them add those things up. We actually do discoveries and Jumpstart to help you do those kinds of things. But when you look back, what I ask people to look for the times, look for the moments when you were most fully alive, when you were most satisfied, when you were most passionate. Sometimes it can be times of the day, like I started working on a project at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I looked at my watch. I thought it was going to be like 9 or 10 o'clock, but I looked and it was 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Where did the time go? The time went because you were actually doing what you were made to do. You're passionate about it. You are fully engaged. Not only are you physically involved, your focus is in it. Your heart and soul are completely in it. Your mind is in it. So much so that you don't even have an awareness of time. And it's almost like you go in like this zone where you just don't even know that time exists, and you press through. Matter of fact, you will a lot of times work straight through lunch and you didn't even get hungry. Why would that happen? Here's why. Because your calling and your purpose can actually become your food and drink. It really can be. It comes to the point where it's like, what do you need so much in your life? And I believe that people need significance and they need purpose, and so much so that it actually feeds them. And contrast that to where a lot of you, maybe you are working right now in your workplace, and you start your work at 8 o'clock in the morning. You notice that your stomach's growling. You're like, man, it must be like 11 o'clock. It must be lunchtime, right? And you look, and it's 9:57. You haven't even put in 2 hours of work. That is the opposite of being in your flow. That is the opposite of being in your passion. That is the opposite of being in the place where you're doing what you know that you were made to do. Um, I find that when you're in the right spot, it absolutely gives you life, and it makes you a completely different person. When I would coach people before I went into work, they could count on the fact that when Paul got there, he was a different, like, who is this guy? And it's because I had already been feeding my soul that morning. Even spending 1 hour doing what I was passionate about doing, I would arrive at my workplace and I was in a different space than everybody else. When my kids saw me come home from work after I just coached someone, it was a different dad. It was me at my best. And you know what? The world deserves to see you at your best. Your calling and your purpose will actually give you life. So when you're coaching someone, even if you're working full time, you're not going to be exhausted and fatigued. You're actually going to be so engaged. You're going to be so switched on that instead of being biologically alive, you will be thriving. And so hopefully that's encouraging for you. My final year of chicken entrepreneurship, I was working 40 hours a week and working 10 hours out of the month on my coaching practice, and I was grossing between $10,000 to $12,000 per month. Now, again, I was only working 10 hours as a coach, but I was making more money as a coach than I was working 160 hours at my regular workplace. And so at that point, then I had to decide, do I keep doing this? And let me say this. If you just want to be a part-time coach for the rest of your life, that's fine too. Let's say that you happen to enjoy some of the things that you're doing, but you want to have coaching as an add-on. It's an incredible add-on. It's not like working a side hustle where you're making $10 or $12 an hour more for each hour. That it really is something. The average coach makes between $118 to $128 a session. Our Jumpstart grads actually double what the national average is. Our Jumpstart grads are making between $250 to $1,000 per session. And so it doesn't really take a whole lot of hours and a lot of your extra time. It's like, man, this was meaningful work, and I was actually rewarded for what I do. Jamal and Angela sent these questions in ahead of time. Jamal says, I work 9 to 5 as a single parent. Angela says, I would love for you to give some tips on managing time. Working a full-time job, being married with 2 children under the age of 18 can sometimes present a need for more hours, to say the least. So that is actually where we're going to start. We're going to start talking about time. And here's the thing that I'm going to tell you. No one has ever been able to convince me that they don't have time to do something. So that is a false belief. There's nothing that's true about it. So no one can ever tell me that they don't have time to do something. You always have time to do things. It's just that it's not a priority yet in your life. Whatever becomes a priority in your life, those are the things that actually get your time. But when somebody tells me they don't have time to do something, what they're really saying is, this is not a priority item in my life yet. It hasn't come past this threshold. What I would say is that there's a threshold for everyone. You'll find this is true with the clients that you work with and everything else, is that there's a threshold that you have to get to where you can call it a pain threshold or a desire threshold. When I say pain, not like healing or trauma, but it's kind of like, I want this so bad it hurts and I'm going to do something about it. That just means that right now that people aren't ready. Maybe it means that you're not ready, but let's talk about really what that means. Everybody's got time. We all have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The richest person on the planet, the poorest person on the planet, all is equal in this time, in this one thing. And so let's just be really clear about what we really mean on that. I know for me, I'm not a guy who likes to go to the doctor. So if I have the sniffles or if I have back pain or something like that, I'm not going to go. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to stretch. I might take some pain medication. It's not until that day, and some of you are like this, it's not until that day or that morning that you wake up and you can't even lift your head off of the pillow. And you're like, you know what? I'm going to the doctor. It's finally hit that threshold. And I'm going to go to the doctor and I'm going to go crawl in my bed and no one's going to ask me to do anything. That is what I'm talking about. That kind of a threshold. We have time for things when it crosses a threshold and when we really want something really badly. And so you don't need a lot of time for coaching. You do need productivity. Like I said earlier, I was working part-time as a coach. I was only working 10 hours a month, but they were what I would call those 10 hours. It was deep work. It was really productive work. And that's what we have to do. You don't need a lot of time. You do need to be productive with the time that you do have. The focus of your time has to be on income producing activities. So you need to know the right things to do to get started. And if you do these things, it will equal success for your coaching practice and you will make money doing it. When anyone comes to me and they say, Paul, I'm really struggling getting my coaching practice up and going, or Paul, you know, I got certified, but I don't know where to begin, and I've tried a couple of things or whatever. What I always do is I ask people, what are you doing? For the coaches who are really successful, the coaches who are crushing it and come out of the gate with success and are getting clients, they do these 4 things. And I'm not going to leave them as a mystery. I'm going to actually show you what these 4 things are. If you will do this when you start out as a coach, you're going to be successful and you're going to crush it, okay? Here are your 4 income producing activities. And it's cool that it's simple 4 things. You're not having to do 30 things to get your coaching practice started and be successful. You do 4 things. And if you could only do 4 things ever in your coaching practice, I would always tell you, just do these 4. If you do nothing else, you will still be really successful, okay? First thing is networking and marketing. And when I say networking and marketing, I'm not talking about printing flyers and hanging them up at the library or handing them out to people. It's a mystery to me that anyone would do that, because why would you start with people that you don't know? I'm going to show you, we're going to spend the lion's share of today on that. But networking and marketing, when you start your coaching practice, it's the #1 task. It should be, let's say you have 10 hours out of the month. It should be 8 to 9 of those hours when you start out. The lion's share of your time, 80 to 90% of your time when you start out as a coach, should be spent on building relationships. That's what networking and marketing is. It's expanding your network of relationships and it's serving the network of relationships that you have. That should be 8 out of the 10 hours that you spend building your practice. 8 to 9 of those hours. The coaches who start out and they don't have any clients after the first month, I can guarantee you they're not doing #1. And it's easy, but I don't know what they're doing, tweaking a website, writing an ebook or something like that. No, you need to spend your time in #1. That's where we focus it. #2, it's meeting with clients and meeting with potential clients. Because if I'm meeting with a client, I'm getting paid, right? Because free coaching doesn't help anyone. And I'm meeting with potential clients, people who I have determined are my ideal client. I tell our coaches in Jumpstart, there are 4 pre-qualifying questions that you should ask before you ever give someone a complimentary session. So if you're going to do any of those introductory sessions or free sessions, complimentary sessions, whatever you want to call it, make sure that the person sitting across from you is an ideal client, that they are serious about going after what they want in their life, that they believe that you can help them, that they're serious about working with a coach, and that they are willing to make at least a 90-day commitment to working with a coach. These are things that you should never give a complimentary session to someone just because somebody asked you to give them a free session. Don't waste your time. Make sure that you only give those sessions to people who truly are ideal candidates. #3 is following up with potential clients. Follow-up is your job. And there's a lot of coaches who think that after they give an introductory session or exploratory discovery, free session, they believe it's the client's job to call them back. And so what they think is that I gave them that session and then I'm going to wait around for the next week or two and hopefully I'll hear back from them. Mistake, because that is not their job. It's your job. And here's why. If you look on the screen, I'm going to describe it to you. We see an iceberg, and when anybody says this is just the tip of the iceberg, what we're really saying is that all we see of the iceberg is what's above the surface. That's only 10% of the iceberg. Below the surface is the vast majority of the iceberg. 90% of the iceberg is below the surface. So, and the way we've split this up is that the conscious mind is what we see above the surface: willpower, analysis, and decisions. What's below the surface? The subconscious: programming, beliefs, values, emotions, habits, imagination, intuition. Let me tell you this: what's driving all of your clients, what's driving every human being, what is driving you as an individual is unconscious, subconscious programming. None of you make analytical decisions, and that is a myth that there are thinkers versus feelers, because there's not. Do the research on it. What do they tell you? They'll tell you that the brain path through for an idea or a thought to get to your conscious mind comes through with a thought and an emotion attached to it. So that when it comes to the conscious mind, what you actually have is a feeling that is processed at the precise time that you think something. As a matter of fact, in most cases, you feel something before you think it. Your gut is telling your brain what to do. And you keep making the same decisions, or it prevents you from making the decisions that you want in your life. Why are people unable to follow through and get the changes that they want? Why is it that you can convince someone logically of what step they should take in their life and they can't follow through with it, even if they say that they really want to? It's unconscious programming. Every day you do it. How many times have you gotten to work and you don't even remember the drive from your house to your work? How did you even, you weren't even conscious during that time. It was your programming got you there. And this is actually a protective device in many cases. It's to help you be in a lot of different ways. It's to help you be very productive and those kinds of things. You can't think about everything that you do, right? But the reality is that these things are always shutting people down. They're haunting people. They make you self-sabotage. Here's what I know. The conscious mind has some value to it. You can do some things with a conscious mind. It's just that you're not going to make any decisions. You're not going to make a decision about being a coach. You're not going to make a decision about starting a coaching practice through your analytical mind, because here's why. Some of you have already been researching this for years. Some of you have been watching podcasts, reading blogs, reading books, doing all this stuff. Why haven't you already pulled the trigger? Do you really need another webinar to encourage you about something or whatever? It's not even about a how-to issue, because with anything that you want in the world, I could give you a how-to on how to be a real estate mogul, and it would be accurate information that would take care of all of the things that you need to do for an entire year, and you'll find that you're unable to do it. Why? Subconscious programming steps in, shuts you down. The willpower and analysis and decisions, we do some things with it. Kind of like you go to lunch today. If you go with a bunch of coworkers and you're at a restaurant and everybody's eating bad stuff, except for you, you're going to bite your lip and you're going to make it through that one meal. And the conscious mind, that's your willpower, it has some value for those kinds of things. But if you want to be successful in your diet, that means that at your house, you have to buy different food, right? And at work, you have to have different kinds of snacks and bring your own meals most days and all those other things. Why? Because the willpower is weak. It can't change anybody. No one has had sustainable change through willpower ever. It's kind of why is it in January, a lot of people are going to repeat what they did this past January, which is get in the gym on January 1. In February 1, no one's going to be in the gym. Why? Because willpower can get you to even sign a 1-year membership, but it can't change you. It's weak. It's unable to change people. A friend of mine is a personal trainer, and one of the gyms that he trains people is at the gym that I go to, which is a tiny gym. I mean, it's so little we don't even have locker rooms in our gym. But I noticed they're always selling memberships all day long. And I remember telling him, I was like, dude, we have a tiny gym. Aren't they worried? We already don't have enough room in here, and they're going to sell more memberships. And he says, well, it's because they know that 85 to 90% of those people are never going to darken the door of the gym. So they can sell as many as they want because they know they're not going to fully pack out the place because these people are not going to show up. Let me tell you how this number is impacting. Remember when I said, he said 85 to 90% of those people. What did I just show you on the screen? 90%, at least 90% of your thoughts every day are 85 to 90% of your thoughts every day are completely unconscious programming. You didn't think about them. You'll have 50,000 thoughts today. You had 50,000 thoughts yesterday. 85% of those thoughts that you had yesterday were negative towards yourself. And they were also the exact same thoughts that you had yesterday. Not only that, is that 85% of people hate their jobs. You see where I'm going with this? Is that what I want you to understand is that most people are unsatisfied with their life and they are stuck. Why? Because of unconscious programming, because of the self-sabotaging mechanisms that kick in, that shut them down and keep them from doing what they say that they want to do. What I tell our coaches all the time, when you give a complimentary session, when you give an exploratory session to someone, you need to marry it with action. Why coaching works for people is that we don't just have conversations about what people want, because wants never happen. It's when people start taking action that matches the desire that they want in their heart, and then they get traction in their life. So it's your job as a coach that if you gave somebody a complimentary session, you marry it with action as quickly as possible. A person does not need a week to look at their budget to see if they can afford something. Every one of you on this call, whether you budget or not, you know how much money you make. You're not going to be making more money next month unless you change something, right? So you already know how much money you're going to make, and you know what your budget is. All of us know what our budget is. So that's a bullcrap excuse. What people have a problem with is they don't marry what they want with action for a lot of different reasons. And here's some of them. When I say the subconscious is made up of beliefs, values, emotions, habits, imagination, intuition, all of these things that are going on in there, there are feelings and emotions that when they come to the surface, what they believe is they need to run away. They're about to fail. They're going to be afraid, and it's supposed to stop them so that they'll preserve what they have. That's why people stay in the same job that they have for years, not because they love it. 85% of people, according to Gallup, hate their job. So why do they stay in it? Because they think it's responsible and that they're holding on to something. When the reality is that almost none of us have jobs that keep up with inflation. If you didn't make more than 3% this year than you did last year, then you lost money staying where you're at. That's the logic behind it. That's why it's harder for you to pay your bills now than it was 5 years ago, because you are making less money, even though when you look at your paycheck, it seems to be the same. You're actually making less money. But it doesn't matter that that's logical, because people deal with what their feelings are. People make decisions on feelings. Kind of like this. My wife, we've had 3 kids. So we have a 21-year-old, a 14-year-old, and a 6-year-old. And again, for those of you who think I look really young, thank you. I'm 44. So for all of our kids, each time my wife would get pregnant, we're really excited when we first find out. And then she has morning sickness the entire pregnancy. That was kind of my wife's experience with stuff. Weird cravings come up. Clothes don't fit. Trying to get new maternity clothes that look cute, but don't look like maternity clothes, even though they're maternity clothes. For some of you who have had children, you know what I'm talking about. I want cute maternity clothes, but all these look hideous. I'd never wear that or whatever, Can't sleep. Can't sleep on your side, can't sleep on your back, can't sleep on your belly, can't eat certain things anymore. Certain smells make you nauseated. All kinds of weird kinds of stuff. Shoes don't fit. Nose is swelling, toes are swelling, all kinds of different things, to the point that when we're about 7 or 8 months in, my wife doesn't even want to go out of the house anymore. And why is that? Because you're just uncomfortable. You're frustrated. You have some anxiety. You have some fear. The hormones are going all over the place. But I can remember what my wife would always say. I'm just ready to have this baby now. Can I just have the baby now? Why do you do countdowns? Because at the same time that there's all this, apparent misery every day of all of this stuff, we know that we're giving birth, that something new, there's a new beginning right here that is at our fingertips. It's just a day away. Maybe it's 30 days away. But we've equated that with understanding that there's nothing wrong with this person. They're about to have a new beginning. Same thing for love. When you fall in love with someone, how do you know? Because you can't eat, you're nauseated, you're consumed with thinking, there's a little bit of fear, does my breath smell okay? You're doing all these checks in the mirror and all kinds of different things. We've equated all of those things, sweaty palms and all of this other stuff, with what? With love. The problem is that when it comes to the desires that we really want in our heart and the things that we are really made for on the planet, we haven't connected those same feelings with this is what destiny feels like. This is what going after, this is what new beginnings feel like. What your brain does is it interprets it as all wrong, and it shuts you down, and it makes you keep working that job that you hate. See, you don't have a commitment problem because some of you are working crappy jobs that you quit liking 10 years ago. You don't have a commitment problem. You don't have a skill problem. You don't have a wisdom problem. You don't have a likability problem with people. But what we do have a problem with is actually marrying things with actions. So I tell our coaches in 3 days, no longer than 3 days, and actually within 24 hours, there should be an action item, which is, hey, we had a fun time. If you couldn't sign them up immediately after that session, don't let it go past 3 days. Matter of fact, in most cases, we want an action item, which is a follow-up with that person within 24 hours, not by email, not by text, but by phone, that you're going to ask them to follow up with you or meet you in person. We're going to follow up about what's our next step moving on from here. Why do I have a discount code today that's good for 3 days? Because I know that the numbers always prove themselves right. 85% of you will not start a coaching practice in January. 85% of you will not start one next year even. I'm just being frank. I know the numbers because they always line up. Even the people who want to show everybody else how to live their best life will not take the action to live their best life. Why? Because of unconscious programming, and it takes action. It's not going, listen, there's no way to change the feelings and everything. There's walking through them. When you take action, you walk through them, and the experience ends up teaching you the lesson. You're not going to read a book that is going to make you encouraged to do this. You're not going to go to a webinar that's going to finally motivate you to do something. I'm not against motivation. It's one of my gifts to give to the world. But if you don't marry it with action, you're kidding yourself. Because you watch TED Talks every day and they motivate you to change your life, but you don't do it. You watch a movie that inspires you, but if you don't take action, you go back to the default programming. It's the action step that's required. And I'm telling you, when you follow up with people, it needs to be within 24 hours, not if at max 3 days, but if it gets to a week, those people will go back to their default mode. They will live in fear and they will not take action in their life. This is why you get paid the big bucks, because you push people to take action, marry what they want with action, with real steps, and you hold them accountable. And it starts right after that complimentary session. This is your job to help them be bold and take that action. Okay, fourth task. Miscellaneous tasks like busy work, email, text, those are your 4 income producing activities. If you will do these things, if you will network, if you will only meet with people who are ideal candidates and you've qualified them, if you will follow up with them, you will be a successful coach and you will crush it. I can assure you of that. Now, you got to get a routine. You know what your 4 income producing activities are. That means that you've got to plan your day beforehand. It means that you can't wait. If I've got 10 hours out of my month, I need to know what I'm going to do with that time before the time rolls around. Look at your week, plan what days and what times you're going to do those activities. Keep your time promises, okay? You've got to, listen, if you said that you're going to go to a networking group on Tuesdays, be there, be present, be fully engaged. Don't be on your phone checking email for your workplace that's not paying you to do that. You keep the boundaries, set boundaries, disconnect from instant access to your time. For those of you who have already checked social media while we've been on this workshop, you have a discipline problem. You've got to set boundaries. Yeah, I call people out on this stuff because my gift to the world is making people live into the life that they say that they want. And it means that we've got to be real about some of these things. Listen, the stuff that's keeping people, the time that you even spend on social media, you could build an empire with. Turn those notifications off on Facebook, on the Facebook Messenger, on Instagram, all of that. Set a time in the day when you're going to check it. But don't do it all day because those are productivity killers. Set boundaries because if you don't value your time, nobody else is going to value it. When you value it, you'll teach everybody else how to value your time. Now, let's talk about building a network because that was the number one point. That's where you're going to spend most of your time when you start out as a coach. If you look at the pyramid, and if you can't see it, I'm going to describe it to you. The base of the pyramid, the biggest portion is trust. The second portion is likability. The top portion is expertise. A lot of coaches starting out read a bunch of coaching blogs, and they believe that the base of this thing, while anybody would do any work with you, is you got some kind of certificate from ABC organization or ABC professional organization. And I want you to know that that's complete and totally false. How do I know this? Because for 10 years as a coach, no one ever asked me what school I got certified through. And nobody ever asked me about any kind of professional organization that's out there. Why? Because that's not the way that people do business. That's not the way that, it's not even the thought of anyone. No one is even informed. Everybody's kind of like, well, things are different in California. Everybody knows what Life Coaches is, and everybody works with a life coach. Well, most of the people that I know, and I live in California, I've been out here for years, most of the people that I know don't work with coaches, have never worked with a coach, and don't even know what they do. Matter of fact, most coaches that I know cannot tell you in 30 seconds what coaching is because they can't make it tangible. So no one is really, listen, the market's not really been rehearsed. It's not been educated in those things. I'm not telling you not to get trained and certified, because when you get trained and certified, you're going to be a great coach. You're going to be a competent coach, and your results are going to start speaking for themselves. But I just want you to know that people don't work with you because of that. And here's an example of why. Trust, likability are the biggest portions of why people do work with you. If your car, let's say your brakes go out on your car and you need someone to repair them, and you don't know anyone to work on your car, where do you start? You might go on Facebook and ask for a recommendation. Oh, but where do you start? You start with the people that you know. You start with your friends, and you say, who do you know who works on cars? Or who do you know who works on brakes if you want to qualify it? You don't say, who do you know who is a certified mechanic in my area? You don't say, who do you know who has been a mechanic in our area for 25 years or more, or anything else? You don't do that, and you don't do a Google search for that stuff either. It is the lowest level of expertise is when you say to someone, who do you know who works on cars? What are you really saying? Who do you know that you trust, that you like, who's shown a certain level of expertise to help me with this problem? And you'll let your next door neighbor, who is not a certified mechanic, work on your car. Change the rotors, bleed the brakes, all of that other stuff. Second most expensive thing that you own. Why? Why would you put that in the hands of an amateur? Because you trust them, because you like them. Understand this, is that the coaches who are successful have really grabbed this. They're not running around trying to put a bunch of letters after their name and thinking that that's going to make everybody come and work with them. They realize that we are in a relationship business, and that the biggest portion of what we do, the successful coaches, are the people who build relationships with people, not sell people, because it's the relationship that sells people, not the selling. Okay, I think that makes sense for everybody, but sometimes people starting out as coaches read some article somewhere and they're just convinced that if they spend $10,000 over here and get some kind of good housekeeping seal, that it means that they're going to have a successful practice, and it's just not true. So here's what you do to begin the initiation of these relationships and to build trust and likability. Here's how you do it. First of all, start with the people that you know. List every person that you know. I'm not telling you to write down a bunch of names of people who are potential clients. That's not what your network is for, okay? Your network's different than your ideal clients, okay? Not everybody in your network is ever going to become a client or even is somebody that you want to work with. What we're looking at, we start with people that we know, not with people that we don't know. We're looking for people who can open the door for our business. So think of every person that you know, because every person that you know is also attached to 1, 2, 5, 10, 30, hundreds of people. You can have a network of thousands of people like that if you just start with the people that you know. Now, you're going to have a minimum of 100 people. If you guys have under 100 people, then you're not really thinking of everyone. Don't think of people that you can leave out. Some of these people are going to be acquaintances, and some of them are going to be people who are close associates in your life. These are going to be friends and family, current coworkers, former bosses. But think of the people who count on your business right now. Your doctor counts on your business. Your CPA counts on your business. Pastors, spiritual leaders, rabbis, whatever, teachers in your area. All these people who know you, these people have hundreds, sometimes thousands of trust relationships. What happens is that when those people open doors for us, that their trust, we're automatically associated with them, so we get their trust. By the nature that we are associated with them, when they open the door for us, those people want to work with us. It's not something that you had to earn or know somebody for a long time. These people are constantly able to open doors. And one of the mindset shifts that you're going to have, because I notice a lot of coaches who are coming in, many have some real poverty mindsets. What you have to really believe is that people actually want to help you. That you're not a burden to even ask somebody for referrals. You're not burdensome. You're not a beggar. People want to reciprocate. You just need to tell them how to open the door for you. And how are you going to tell them that? Well, you tell them who you work with and what problems that you help people solve. That's the core part of your messaging. So let me get to that. You're going to send an email, you're going to send letters, you're going to send text, you're going to send social media announcements out to this group of people. Now, letters aren't read as much as other things, so I would say definitely email is kind of like the new formal, but text can be appropriate. Social media announcements are definitely appropriate at this day and time, but it's not just sending out an announcement. I have to think about the fact that within this network, I want to stay in constant communication with these people, not just sending people a, hey, like my like page on Facebook. It's got to be more than that, okay? People don't know what to do with that. You're still not giving them any instructions, so don't waste that. Here's what you do. In that announcement, you've got to include why you're doing what you're doing. Why? Because 85% of people hate their jobs and aren't living into what they are made for. And so most people are they're not even conscious about why they do anything in their everyday life. And when you talk about your why, because I believe that most coaches do what they do out of a defining moment. It's when they wanted to help humanity. It's when somebody said you should be a coach or whatever. There was a defining moment for all of us, that there was a certain group of people that were seemingly chosen for us. And there was a destiny that was chosen for us. And when we can talk about that moment, it grips people's hearts. For me, it was when my wife almost died in the hospital. And I had a successful career where I was working 6 out of 7 days of the week. But I had to bathe her, and I had to bathe our kids, take care of our kids, bring her to the doctor three times a week. I was like 30 years old doing all of this stuff. And there was a moment when I had almost lost her that I said, we will never do life the same way again. And from that moment on, I've kept that promise every day. No one, when you come to the edge of life and death, no one can give me a good reason. You cannot give me a good reason for why you're not going after your destiny, because we have endured about every major tragedy that there is, and we're not just standing, but we're thriving. No one ever has a good excuse for anything. You can't give me a big enough fear. You can't give me a sad enough story, because we've lived all of those things. There's only how we choose to do, because what's happened to us, there's some of those things that we couldn't have chosen, like where we were born and some of the things that what happened to us. But we can choose the outcome of our life every day, and we get to do that. And because I've done it, I've got credibility to be able to do that. People work with me because I live a compelling life. And people who don't want to work with me are people who don't want anything in their life. I'm not being ugly about that. What I'm saying is that people get really uncomfortable sometimes around me, and they're kind of like, ooh, if I'm around Paul, I know he's going to be asking me about my destiny. I know he's going to be asking me what I've done since the last time we were together, and I'm going to avoid this guy. Except for the people who do come around us, and they change their lives. Most of them have new careers. I can point to the books on the shelves where I'm in the acknowledgement in that book. I can tell you about the 23 girls who got rescued out of sex trafficking last year in San Diego County that we were a part of. I'm telling you that when your story resolves, other people's stories start to resolve. Many who can't do anything for themselves, but many who can make a choice tomorrow. And that's up to you, but it starts with your own story. You're going to include in your announcement what you do, but don't dare try to sell coaching. That's not what we do. No one understands what coaching is. And so when you go on coaching websites and you see people trying to, well, coaching isn't the same thing as counseling because it's, listen, people don't care what it is that we do. All they want to know is, do you have a solution with my problem? Can I trust you? And can you help me get what I want in my life? So the focus of your messaging all the time, even in this initial announcement, is who you help and what problems that we help people solve. Who you help, there is a target market. I believe there's a group of people. We work with our students in Jumpstart really hard to define their target market. But and you need to limit that. You don't want to work with everybody on the planet. You want to discover the people who you're most motivated to work with, who you're most passionate about, because you'll do your best work. And you're going to discover what problems that you actually help people solve. What result do you help people get in their life? What do people come to you to get less of, and they want more of this? They want less of this and they want more of this. It's kind of like with insurance. If you buy insurance, all of you probably have car insurance. You can't even tell me any details about it, except for maybe the company that you got it from. What did you buy? You didn't buy insurance. You bought peace of mind. You didn't buy insurance because you expect to use it. You buy insurance just in case something happens that you're covered. So you bought peace of mind. That's what you bought. When it comes to coaching, people aren't buying coaching. They're buying the solutions to what they really want to help them achieve and get their desires or whatever. And so this is how we define it in that core messaging. And you've got to ask. Don't be afraid to ask, even in that initial announcement, would you introduce me to 2 people? And here's an example, who have experienced some success in business, but maybe have a thing or two in the way that's keeping them from the next level. I'm talking about who I work with, business people, successful business people, but they're wanting to get to the next level. If you work with female startup entrepreneurs, don't just say I'm a business coach. Make it simple for people to open the door. They need to, when they see that person, when they are in that conversation, they need to think of you. Don't just plant seeds. Actually tell people who it is that you work with, specify it, and what do you help people achieve? What do you help them get? Here's what my experience was. I gave out 15 free sessions. You know what I did? I did what most coaches do. I said, hey, I'm a life coach. Does anybody want a free session? And of course, I got a bunch of people who are not my ideal candidates who started wanting a free session with me. Most of those people weren't in my target market because my messaging was terrible, but I did get practice. I was at least smart enough to leverage those people for testimonials. Again, you're not a beggar. If you give a free session or any session to anyone, ask for a testimonial. You need to start building your results. You need to be able to have that out in front of you, the stories, the impact that you're making. You need to ask those people for referrals. Those will be the best evangelists in the world. If you will help them, they will be the biggest evangelists for what you do and promote you all the time. Now, 3 people were serious and became clients. A 4th person saw me practice coaching on someone. They observed me doing a complimentary session with someone, and they became a client. And listen, I wasn't even good at this thing, but I didn't sell anyone. I just showed people how my service could benefit them and add value to them. And I had over $1,000 a month of new clients. Now, that was a lot of money. That's not too shabby, honestly. Even in this day and age. But here's the thing, is that we have, I'll show you, like Blake started with us in January. His first client was over $1,000 a session. He has no previous experience, and in his 20s, living in Michigan, and living in a small town in Michigan for that, and first client over $1,000 per session. You can look him up, fulfillinglifesyearnings.com. He's a legit guy, young guy, but he was willing to marry some stuff with action. This is what it really requires. And that's what I love at this stage, is that my ceiling's your floor. There's nothing that's keeping you. Learn from my mistakes, learn from the things that we have out there in our resources and Jumpstart and everything else, because you can start hitting the ground running without making any kind of mistakes. Let me finish up really quick. You're going to want business cards, but I tell people all the time, I wish I had a business card in front of me. I have I do have something that is business card size, but this is basically business card size. You don't want to put life coach on your business card. Give people a compelling answer. Tell them who you work with and what problems that you help people solve. What results do you help people get in their life? Put it on the business card. Make it compelling. Don't leave it a mystery. People should not wonder what you do, or just say, oh, well, that's so-and-so. They're just a life coach. Make sure that they know, okay? Get 250 to 500 business cards. I'm not really big on printing stuff in general, so I don't like flyers. I don't like pamphlets. I don't like any of that stuff, but do get business cards. Just don't use vistaprint.com or an online printer where they say, here's a template, drag and drop your content. Because I did that, and when I did, I kept running into people with the exact same template as mine. It was really embarrassing. So there are ways of getting fresh, unique designs and logos. One of them is a marketplace like Fiverr. Fiverr does a lot of different kinds of professionals are in there, but what you can do is you can hire a designer on there for like $5. They'll design a logo, design a business card for you. It's a really cheap way to go. Fiverr.com. It's Fiverr.com. Also, make sure that, like I said, make sure your business card tells people who you help and what problems that you help people solve. Get a website. LCTI grads get a free listing on lifecoachmatch.com. This is lifecoachmatch.com. Everybody gets a chance. It's a pretty cool thing that on the homepage, everybody gets a shot. Every time you refresh this, there is a new group of people who pops up on the homepage. But you can search by country, city, state, gender. For those of you who are outside the United States, 25% of our students are outside the United States. When you go in here, you can add as much information as you want. Skype ID, links to all your social media. You can embed a video, all of these kinds of things to give you an opportunity to get that out in front of people. I don't think this takes the place of a website, and it won't take the place of different marketing and different things that you'll do, but it is a free listing with a great directory that's normally $75 a year that you get for free. Go to GoDaddy.com or Wix.com or Squarespace.com. I'm less impressed with GoDaddy these days because I don't feel like they've upgraded their website builder. But you don't have to hire a web designer anymore. You can go to like Wix.com, get a turnkey solution to get your domain name, pick a template, drag and drop your content in your website for like $5 a month. You do not need to have a huge website with a bunch of blogs and videos and all that other stuff. Just have your core messaging that we were talking about before. Who you are, why you do what you do, who you help, what kinds of problems that you help people solve, and contact info. People should know in about 3 seconds the answers to those questions. Most coaching websites are terrible. You'll go on there and you'll see all kinds of philosophy and yoga poses, and you think that you're talking to some Zen master or something like that. Don't do that. It's fine if you do yoga. It's fine if you do some of these other kinds of things, but don't look like a yoga instructor on your Instagram, your social media, or on your website. Just unless you are a yoga instructor and that's what you're trying to sell. You're trying to sell coaching, but actually you're trying to sell you, and the result, that's what people need to see. Who do you help? What problems do you help people solve? Take the mystery out of it. Keep it simple. You can get a free local phone number because I really encourage you not to use like regular numbers. Most of you have Google accounts. I don't know if you know this, but if you go to google.com/voice, you can get a free local phone number. Has an inbox on the back end that if you don't answer that number, because you can have it redirect to your phone, but But the beauty of it is if you're at work and you can't answer the phone, then it will inbox it to you. So it'll either send you an MP3 or it'll transcribe the message for you so that you can call those people back. I'm going to conclude. If you want a link to the replay today, Paul at ilifecoachtraining.com. If you want that 35% discount code, drops the price. Again, for those of you who missed this, I am giving you a reward for being a part of today. Our life coach certification course is already affordable. It's $195. You know, it's not a whole lot of money to kickstart a new career, okay? And something that you're going to leverage for really the rest of your life. It's $195. It's fully online, on demand. There's 10 modules that you go through. There's videos in each module. There's activities at the end of each one. When you pass the certification exam with a score of above 70%, you've earned your credential. It's normally $195. If you apply the discount code there, you get it for $127. That's not going to break anyone, okay? That's, for some of you, that means not going to Starbucks for a month. And frankly, you're going to make that back in the first hour that you coach someone. This is how reasonable it is. It's never about the money anyway. It's about the fact that you need to marry some things with action and quit talking about what you want to do and actually do it. Jumpstart's our other program. Jumpstart includes the life coach certification course. So you either want to buy, if you don't need business development help, just go with the life coach certification course. But if you need the business development help, you don't have to buy these separately because it bundles with the life coach certification course. You get a 20 module business development roadmap. We show you everything from how do you discover your target market, how do you discover your niche, how do you sell, how do you attract clients, how would you give a 1-minute pitch if you went into a networking group today. We show you how to do a 1-minute pitch. We show you how to have an explosive first coaching session that demonstrates that you can actually help someone. We show you how to answer objections, how to close people, how to create multiple streams of income. About most of you are thinking you're just going to go out and get one-on-one clients. Well, that's one way of offering your coaching services. But did you know that there's a lot of ways that you can offer coaching so that you're not working 40 hours a week? Because that's never been my goal. I've never had a goal of working 40 hours a week as a coach. I want to be smart. And there's a lot of ways that you can offer coaching, and we show you how to do those things. We supplement all of this with an online community where you can role play with other students. You can get feedback on what you're working on. We also have an online weekly group call that is live. So when you can come on the call, I'll answer any coaching and business related questions during that time, making sure that you don't get stuck at any moment. If you can't make that call for some reason, you can still send your questions in ahead of time because we record them and then we post them on the website within 24 hours. And we also post them for convenience in the online community as well to get your feedback on those things. That program is normally $99 a month with a 3-month minimum commitment. But if you apply the discount code there, you get it for $65 a month, which is essentially $64.35 is really what it comes down to. Again, 90-day minimum commitment. You can cancel after 3 months. If you don't, it'll just keep billing you at $64.35 until you cancel. But that's all I've got for you today. I'm going to stick around for a couple of minutes if you guys have any additional questions that you'd like me to answer that I couldn't cover during or I didn't cover during that workshop. But if you have to go, hey, listen, I appreciate you immensely for spending time with me today. So let's give it a few minutes. Any additional questions that you guys have, and I'm ready for them. Anything, and it doesn't have to be related to anything that I talked about today either. You're welcome, Sylvia. Appreciate it. Cool. Julia asking for the code. Yep, we'll get that out to you as soon as we leave. Thomas says, how would you make a business name? Well, what I'm really big on in names in general, you know, there are companies like Amazon that don't have anything to do with the Amazon. Matter of fact, they used to just sell books, but now we know that they sell everything. The importance of a business name really comes down to this. You know, like for really big companies, who want to invest in a lot of marketing. Like, let's say this: if you cut your finger, you're probably going to say, "Does anybody have a Band-Aid?" Well, Band-Aid is a brand. It's not, you want a bandage. But what you did is that now when people think of a cut finger, they're associated with the brand. But there's been a lot of money, there's been a lot of investment that they've done in that name. Band-Aid is not the same word as bandage. There's a little bit in it, but you may not think, if you came from another country, you may not know what a Band-Aid is, right? Same thing with Amazon. You may not know what Amazon is, except that people have branded it to the point that we understand. And so they've spent millions of dollars in all of those things. Coca-Cola, I know it's a soft drink, but they still do. They spend millions every year with that brand and everything else. So branding for your coaching business, what I say is, because we're not going to be spending millions of dollars on what we do, when something goes in front of someone, I really want it to have some kind of an association with who I help and what problems that I help people solve. At the very least, I want there to be a tagline. Regardless of what you choose with your business name or whatever, I want a tagline, that gives people a sense of what you do or whatever. One of our coaches, she was doing coaching for creatives. And what she told me when she came into our program, she says, I'm a creative. And she said, the thing that I always find with all creatives is that they never finish their projects. And I was like, well, why do they not finish their projects? Because we have all these discovery materials and everything else. And it's because they get some kind of like blocks, or they get barriers or whatever. And so what she ended up doing is using as a tagline that she's a breakthrough coach for creators. And it was just like, oh, well, I understand what that means. I can tell who she works with, and I understand what breakthrough means, that we're going to break through barriers. And so it's those kinds of things that I really like to see in any kind of business name and branding, because because if you're going to go through the trouble for a business name, then I want people, in many cases, it can just say what it is. I mean, our company, Life Coach Training Institute, I can't get a trademark on it because there are other schools that do life coach training, but the business name is what it does. Is anybody confused about what we do and what business that we're in? We train life coaches. So that helps. That's what I would say. That really helps when you are a small business to be able to do those kinds of things. It's like if there's a plumbing company, they're probably not just going to call themselves, what's this company's name? Titan. Our company's name is Titan. You're like, well, what do you guys do? Oh, we're plumbers. Well, what if they said Titan Plumbing? Those simple kinds of things. So those are the recommendations that I generally make on that. Cool. I see someone else asking for the code. Yeah, well, email us, paul@ilifecoachtraining.com. That way we don't miss that, and we'll get that thing out to you as soon as possible. Let's see. Any other questions that you guys have for me? And we'll give it about 10 more seconds. I'll stay with you as long as you need me to, but if you don't need me, then we'll end. Thomas says, when will you have more sessions? Well, you can check our website, ilifecoachtraining.com. So whenever we have upcoming workshops, you'll see them featured on the front page of our website. I do know things are going to slow down a little bit because we'll have like two weeks that'll basically be kind of like holidays. Our school schedule, again, we don't have a school schedule because we don't have start and end dates. So with our programs, all those things are self-paced. You'll just go through on video. For our Jumpstart program, those people have a lot of access to us because they're emailing. There's things going on all the time in our online community, as well as a weekly group coaching call where we're actually live. So those are always every Wednesday at 10:30. But unless you're a part of Jumpstart, you can't really be a part of those things. So that's kind of like the schedule for our school. You're so welcome, Thomas. will we continue to get emails on updates? Yeah. What we do, and if any of you have either signed up for our free course or you're doing or you're on our email list, we're always trying to create new resources and always send you new content and everything else. And so we're always in a giving mood. So we're always trying to build up, and we're always trying to help coaches. And so for as long as you want to be subscribed to that list, you can be, and you'll continue to get updates. So yeah. Any final questions before we head out for the day? All right, you guys. Oh, I just got the question, will we get a paper certification? We do, but here's how this goes. What we started doing, we're a fully online school. We pay for a service through a company called Accredible. They're our credentialing partner. When you pass your certification exam, there's a one-click button where you will transmit your results to Accredible. At that moment, Accredible, because everything's automated, will give you your certificate. Will also give you your unique credential ID. It shows up on your certificate, and you also get full social media integration and website integration with your credential. What we do, rather than just giving you paper, because we're not in the business of shipping a bunch of certificates to people. You do get a certificate. Accredible gives you a high resolution version of your certificate that you can either download or you can get it, or you can on your own get it printed. But we spend money every month paying for Accredible to keep the service going for you, because it's got one-click name change if you ever had a name change or something like that. Also, social media integration and website integration is crucial in this day and age, because we want your credential to get out in front of people rather than just being on your wall somewhere. And so so there's some really neat tools. I mean, you can bring it into LinkedIn, Facebook. I mean, every social media tool for the most part is represented out there, and you can integrate your credential into them. So those are the things that we continue to pay for, but we want you to be able to market and leverage that credential rather than having just a picture of it, you holding it or something like that. So hopefully that's helpful. Final questions. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate you guys all immensely. If you want a link to the replay, it's paul@ilifecoachtraining.com. Don't forget, you got 20 days until the biggest month for coaches, which is January. And I hope that you'll be there with us. It's going to be a great month. It's going to be extraordinarily successful. And I want to hear your stories and get to know you. So have a great rest of your week. Take care. All right. Thank you, Thomas.